Archangels, ghosts, and Bigfoot. Oh my. It's just another night for Supernatural Girls. Real stories, real answers to life's biggest supernatural mysteries. And now for another exciting interview with paranormal experts from this world and others. Here's your host, paranormal researcher Patricia Baker, on the one, the only Supernatural Girls.
Welcome, everyone, to another exciting episode of Supernatural Girls. I am your host, Patricia Baker, and I'm here with my lovely co-host all the way from Tucson, Miss Soceity. How are you?
Well, it's a beautiful day here. It's not too hot. Definitely a perfect spring day.
Beautiful.
Yes, and I'm enjoying every minute of it.
Oh, good. Well, it's not snowing here in New England. I'm happy to report. We finally, I think we cracked like 65, 66 today.
Oh, it's about 80 right now.
Nice. I'm looking forward to that.
I definitely was. That's for sure. But all the trees are in bloom and they look absolutely gorgeous, except everybody's walking around with allergies and Kleenex stuffed in their pockets because all you do is sneeze your way through it. But God, it looks pretty. Oh, can't have everything, right?
Yeah, that's right. So tell us what's going on with the numbers. We've got a great guest tonight. I can't wait.
Well, we certainly do.
Oh my God, we have a lot to learn from our guest Miguel tonight. So tell us. Numerology, what are we facing? What's going on?
Sweetheart, the bottom line is it's still a 4-month. We're still in retrograde for a bit longer, that shadow period and such. So just hold on, stay calm, and let things kind of slide by. For right now, there's not a heck of a lot you can do. 4 deals with work-related issues, restrictions, limitations, and feeling overwhelmed. But it's a good time to do anything where your health is concerned.
Okay.
If you want to build a house or build anything, good time to do that.
Okay.
Sounds good. It's cheap.
Yeah. Right.
Hang on to your money. Next month, a different story. So right now, get all the little nitpicky things out of the way so you're ready to rock and roll next month because you're going to like that one.
I can't wait. I am so excited. Finally.
Me too, honey. Me too.
I've been taking deep breaths for months, so now it's time to just enjoy. Good. So our guest tonight has the most unusual topic I think we've ever had on the show.
Yes, I agree.
And we knew nothing about this. This is brand new to us. So let me just say, our guest, Miguel Conner, he is a writer. There he is, very handsome man, voiceover artist, and host of the popular podcast Aeon Byte. He has written several books and dozens of articles, including the book we're talking about tonight, The OCCULT ELVIS. Who knew? Yeah. Voices of Gnosticism. He has lectured and appeared at such events as the Duncan Trussell Family Hour, Open Minds on GaiaTV, New Thinking Aloud, Dreamland with Whitley Strieber, our dear friend, Runesoup, the Higherside Chats, the Theosophical Society, and the Gnostic Countercultures Conference at Rice University. Now, what we are going to talk about tonight, I just can't tell you. I'm on the edge of my seat. I know you are too. Because
definitely.
We only knew Elvis for his fame, his music. People love him all over the world, still to this day. But we did not know that he had this side to him where he absolutely loved the paranormal. He would sit right in on our show. Now, let me bring Miguel on so he can tell us all about it. Hi, Miguel, and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on. Yes, that's quite a feat. The pressure is on me. The pressure is on me.
Of course, you've got all the answers.
Yeah.
But what led you to this? My goodness, it's so unique.
Well, as John Lennon once said, life happens when you're busy making other plans. And I was spent most of my life making other plans. In other words, I was a Beatle person. I didn't think much of Elvis most of my life. I thought he was the pop version of McDonald's or Mountain Dew, and didn't think much of him. And as I got older, I got respect. I did hear and read about some of his like you said, paranormal interests and mysticism, but I didn't think much about it. I just thought he was just another rock star like the Beatles or David Bowie or Madonna, who's into, as part of their eccentricity, if you would, to be Shirley MacLaine, Ronald Reagan, all those. But then I felt called during the summer of 2022, a series of synchronicities, visions, calls, strange happenings urged me to take a look at Elvis, and almost like a voice within me started calling me and saying, you've missed, most of the world has missed an important part of my life, and it's time to see it. And I followed that rabbit hole, and the rabbit hole went very deep. I couldn't believe it, but I was channeled, or as I like to say, I became quantum entangled with Elvis. And eventually I resisted, like most humans, because we want to follow our egos. But eventually I sat down to write this book, February of 2023. And this book came out of me in about 3 months. The first draft was ready in 3 months.
That's quick.
Excellent.
Yes. So, I mean, you were talking in the book, not just about his interest in the occult, but that he also performed healings on people. This is extraordinary.
Yes, as I say, I call him America's magician or America's shaman. I think he is the greatest supernatural agent of modernity, the greatest wizard, if you would, better than Crowley, or don't tell Lon Milo Duquette, but better than Crowley or all those other cats. And he was a full-blown mystic and a full-blown individual who could accomplish supernatural acts. And again, let me just say, we all know here that Elvis used to be the tabloid king. He was a conspiracy before there were conspiracy theories. We'd all go to the new supermarket and, oh my God, the UFOs have dropped Elvis. We've heard the stories, and there's still a lot of sensationalistic documentaries on YouTube and so forth. But everything I got was from the horse's mouth, if you would. In other words, his supernatural abilities, views on the occult, all that you can find in Priscilla's autobiography. You can find it in his Memphis Mafia, family members, spiritual teachers, all that. It's all there from very lauded and sober biographies on Elvis. And some of these biographies have sold millions, but they just got scattered. And for some reason, the world didn't want to take a look at them. So my job was to go to these different biographies, interviews, again, people close to Elvis. Whenever he did things, there was always many witnesses, and just bring it all together and what would become the occult Elvis. And yes, healing was a very important part of his life. From Priscilla would say he could heal her headaches at a touch. And then there's instances of him healing broken legs, heart attacks, hangovers, probably popular at the parties, right? Yeah. Nausea. And he healed his grandmother Minnie Mae's arthritis over and over. He was a walking magician.
That's incredible.
The sad part is, when you think of all the things that he was capable of doing, what brought him into drugs himself?
Well, the drugs was something that he started in the army. He started because of the bone crunching schedule, very physical, 12-hour shifts. He was just another grunt like everybody else, even if he was Elvis. So it was normal for soldiers to take amphetamines to keep them going. It gave them energy. That's something he started to lean to afterwards, because again, doing 2 or 3 movies a year, later touring and all that. And then other pills started coming into his life to help him sleep, to help him relax. As he got older, health issues like arthritis and colon issues, glaucoma, terrible glaucoma, more and more pills came. And he just sort of, a suspicious mind says he got caught in a trap. Not, it happens with people all the time. And he was from an era where he thought that street drugs were for losers, but anything your doctor prescribed you was, safe and effective. And of course, people got caught in that trap, and then the pills just became. However, there were many times in his life where he would take a break, go to Hawaii, or take off Christmas, and he would just get in shape, stop doing the drugs, and just get himself going. Even on the day, 2 days before he died, when he was on a pause, he was out riding his Harley in Memphis. And then the day he died, he was playing racquetball. That doesn't sound like a junkie. Again, Elvis is like the exception to every rule in society. He's an enigma.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And tell us about the beginning of his life, because he had something happen with his twin that had quite an effect on him.
I was surprised to find out that he was a twin.
Yeah.
I had no concept of that.
Yes. As I write in the book, one of the themes is fate. Can we break our fate and create a destiny? Because it seems from the beginning, Elvis was destined to be Elvis. As a rock star, as a magician, as a mystic. They, of course, grew up very poor in conditions we can only imagine. Great Depression, South, in Mississippi. And basically, they lived in this little hut that Vernon, his father, built. No indoor plumbing, no electricity. And Gladys had a hard birth. Elvis's mother, they had to have it at the house because they're so poor. They couldn't afford a hospital. I don't think they could even afford a midwife. So Vernon goes outside to have a cigarette, and suddenly this blue light appears over the house. And I don't make judgments. Was it an alien ship, a heralding star, like what happens with Jesus and Buddha and Alexander the Great? Whatever it is, Vernon is smoking. He freaks out. The wind stops. The nocturnal animals like coyotes go silent. He freaks out. He goes in. And then things go south because, yes, Jesse, Elvis's twin, older twin, comes out stillborn. Very tragic. 35 minutes later, Elvis comes out. They go to the hospital. Gladys finds out that she can no longer conceive. And what this is called is the phenomenon called the twinless survivor. And again, there are other figures that I compare him to, Philip K. Dick, Liberace, others. And this individual is born with guilt survivor. They think that why did he die when we had the same birth? And they feel very empty. They're forever feeling like something's missing. Something's been amputated from their soul. And these figures tend to be seekers. They tend to be creative. Unfortunately, if it's not treated, they tend to be self-destructive, addiction-prone, workaholics, and they have issues connecting with other human beings. So there, fate was telling Elvis, you're going to be Elvis. But at the same time, Jesse did become his guiding light, his guardian angel, his intuition. He would have visions of Jesse and dreams of Jesse. And it was a voice in his stomach that would always tell him, do this and do that. But it became the biggest issue and drive in Elvis's life till the day he died.
Wow, what a beginning. And it just... From there on, I mean, just every single thing, so dramatic, so stellar. Yeah, incredible life that he had. But again, he also had a side of him, it sounded like, that you described that was quite intellectual about the paranormal. I mean, really liking Manly P. Hall, who wrote those amazing books, not easy to understand and grasp, but yet Elvis did that. He got it.
Yes, he was always a seeker. He wanted to know, God, why did this happen? If we'd had money and been to the hospital, Jesse would have lived. And why did this happen? Why was I poor? Why of all these poor kids did I get chosen to be the most famous rock star in history with a series of strange events? You're going, how did this happen? But he was always questioning, and his family was very spiritual. They were Christian. However, Gladys had sort of, I don't know what you would call it, witch blood, second sight. She could see things in the night, shadow people, demons. She had premonitions. She had the power to faith heal. and she could astral travel, and all these things Elvis inherited. But she always told Elvis, you know, we are in the South, in the middle of the Bible Belt. Don't tell people these abilities. And Elvis sort of kept him to himself, but he would confess later on. And then he was very curious, because even by the time he became famous, he got very angry at the churches, because Elvis was the most famous person in the world, but he was also the most hated person in the world. And individuals like Billy Graham denounced him publicly. His own pastor said he was running with Satan. I mean, he was very burned, and he was angry, so he pushed away from conservative Christianity. He began to believe in reincarnation. By the time he was in the army, he was reading things like Khalil Gibran's The Prophet, doing things like aromatherapy and martial arts, which nobody did. I mean, he was already moving there. And in the 60s, when he met his spiritual teacher, Larry Geller, that's when he went, oh my God, Theosophy, Manly P. Hall, Taoism, Buddhism, Gnosticism, Freemasonry. And he was off to the races for the rest of his life. But in his quest for spirituality, for self-actualization, was just as important as his career as an entertainer.
It's just incredible.
Excuse me, go ahead.
Go ahead, you go.
I was going to say, for the fact that he had a mother that had these abilities herself, why didn't she not school him or let him know what was going on? Instead, it was almost as if she rejected him because he knew something.
Well, there was no framework. I mean, they existed in the Pentecostal tradition. Right. So it was sort of, ecstatic rituals and dancing and all that, which was cool. We have to remember that when people in Pentecostal churches in the South would have an altered state of mind, be possessed by the Holy Spirit and talk in tongues and start dancing in the aisles, it was called rock and rolling. And Elvis grew up with that, and he probably learned a lot of the moves and the way that the preachers acted to get people excited. But that was a framework. So anything like astral travel and seeing things at night or prophecy was probably shunned on, but the healing was not. For example, when Elvis was a kid, he had bad tonsillitis. His parents took him to the doctor. The doctor said, I can't do anything about it. They went home, they prayed, they put his hands on Elvis. By the afternoon, he had no fever and no tonsillitis. So basically, he couldn't. It was only later when he met others like Larry Geller and Dayamata, Yogananda's successor, that he had a framework for his powers to come out and understand what was going on.
Was his father as intuitive or worked with it as his mother did?
No, I think he was just a regular Joe. Yeah, he was he believed in the Christian ideas, but the powers came through his mother, no doubt. I don't know when. Was it the native blood? Was it some sort of mystic Jewish blood? We don't know. It's hard to trace their lineage.
Did she really care about him? Some of the things that
enough to destroy him.
Oh gosh,
that's where I was going. I didn't quite have to say, but it was almost like a self or a jealousy or something of that sort.
Yeah. I mean, you can imagine that no girlfriends. She had to pick his girlfriends, and we can't blame Gladys. Yeah, Gladys was a weird person because she was so mystical, and she might have been bipolar. And I think again, Elvis inherited these things, anxiety. Right. I mean, we have to remember Elvis shaking his hips was not on purpose. It was nerves. And most people don't understand that Elvis smoked like a chimney. He didn't inhale, but he was always so full of this energy. He needed some conduit to get it. But you can't blame. When she went to the hospital after Elvis was born and poor Jessie died, the doctor said, you will no longer conceive. So, of course, she becomes very possessive of Elvis. Today we call it helicopter parenting, but it's really called enmeshment or lethal enmeshment, when the mother smothers the child so much that the child is not allowed to grow and mature and get healthy ego boundaries. And this child is caught in extremes. It becomes the proxy husband. He was already the king, but there's also the part of the child that's sneaking around and trying to discover the world. So when his mom isn't seeing her. So that dichotomy really messed Elvis up. And again, individuals who suffer from lethal enmeshment, guess what? Yes, they are creative, they are spiritual, but they tend to be workaholic, self-destructive, addiction-prone, and can't make relationships with others, especially of the opposite sex. So again, his fate was sealed between Gladys, the supernatural abilities, Jesse, poverty. Of course, that really moved Elvis. He was, that drove him because he didn't want to live in those horrible conditions, and everything just made Elvis into Elvis. He had no choice. I wonder if we have a choice sometimes.
Yeah, when you look at that one, I mean, the boundaries were very clear as to what he could do. What about Priscilla? What about his wife? How did she handle all of these mystical abilities?
Well, she didn't mind, and she was always very open-minded, and it was always Elvis is going to do what Elvis is going to do. But the problem was that when he became spiritual, he really started detaching from the world. People don't know this, although it's recorded. He almost quit the entertainment business twice, once to be a Christian monk and once to be a Hindu monk for Yogananda, because he was becoming so detached and his consciousness was expanding. So instead of having parties and socials, he would get people around and have them read these spiritual books and meditate and pray. And he drove everybody insane because the old Elvis of let's go play football and ride motorcycles was over. He was just, let's talk about reincarnation and do mantras, and everybody near him just hated it. And he was becoming detached, and there was a lot of worries because they thought, Elvis is a multi-million-dollar industry.
Right.
What if he goes off the deep end? And he became very detached to Priscilla. He didn't want to be affectionate to her. He only wanted to talk spirituality. For example, he wanted to he couldn't go to the Manly P. Hall lectures over there in LA because imagine Elvis walking in the door at one of his lectures. So he used to send Priscilla to write notes, and she would write notes and bring him. So she hated it eventually. Colonel Parker hated it. Everybody hated the spiritual Elvis, and they put a lot of pressure on him to sort of maybe suppress it, get away from it.
Well, it really wasn't popular in culture at that time.
Oh, never.
But it's everywhere now. But back then, it wasn't. It was.
Yeah, he was before the Beatles, before the 60s. Elvis was out. I say he was seeding the counterculture movement because he's passing out books on Madame Blavatsky and spirituality and Taoism, and he's talking. So Elvis was seeding this before it was popular. The ashram that famously George Harrison used to go there and pray years before Elvis was there, making an appearance. So yes, he was ahead of his times in so many ways.
He really was. I mean, did he love being an entertainer? Was that something he was very passionate about? It seemed like he was.
Yes, he loved being loved because, again, when you grow up with a possessive mother, that's not real love. And his father did his best. And losing Jesse and growing up in the South, they were like sometimes people like Elvis, these sharecroppers and bootleggers, they were like the untouchables for society. So he loved being loved. He loved helping out. He loved his audience. And in a way, he was a shaman. He got energy from his audience, but he felt he was giving them back energy. He was healing their minds and their bodies. And he loved connecting with the audience. He was an introvert. When most people can attest to this, if you gave Elvis a chance, he would like to sit outside and just stare at the sky for hours or sit alone in a corner playing his guitar. But when it came to connecting with the crowd, it was just a magic that he loved.
Gosh, it's just so different. I mean, to be able to like being isolated like he did, and then to get out in front of these enormous crowds who adored him.
It's almost as if he put himself into an outer vessel where he could be whomever that person was supposed to be. Because I recall reading things about him being extremely generous to people that he would meet or friends of his, that he didn't think anything about giving away a lot of money or gifts to people that other people would have gone, oh my God, why? But tried to make up, I think, for what he didn't get from his mommy.
Yeah, and sometimes I think everything goes back. Freud and Jung were right. It all goes back to mommy and daddy issues. Sometimes I wonder, because they are powerful archetypes. But yeah, he was. Gladys did have good influence on him. Taught him always, we are all equal under the eyes of God. She said all religions are an expression of God. So she did teach him very good things. That's why Elvis was so open about religions. He thought all these spiritual masters, Buddha and Muhammad, they all were valid, and they all had something of value to tell the world. So he was he was very open, and certainly very spiritual. But again, like you said, he was already so broken. By the time he was famous, he was so broken. And in 1958, Gladys dies at a very young age. He's only 23. He's in boot camp, basic training at the Army. She dies. The Army only gives him 2 weeks to mourn and sends him off to West Germany. And I wonder if it's some deal with the devil, because Gladys hated his fame, because she could no longer control the little boy, have him always by his side, because he's out there touring and making girlfriends that she couldn't gatekeep. And she didn't care about the money. She hated Hollywood, thought they were demonic. She hated the record. She's not wrong. She thought they were demonic. Yeah. But the problem is that she started drinking, taking pills, getting stressed. She got hepatitis, her immune system collapsed, and all of a sudden poor Gladys dies, and suddenly Elvis is alone, because that was his main figure outside of Jesse, and Elvis goes into this horrible depression, which he couldn't solve. You don't recover, but his spirituality later on helped him cope a lot with Jesse and Gladys and the tragedies that happened. But yeah, he was tormented for much of his life.
Did she seem to reject him because the brother passed away before birth, that he was the only one? Did she ever? It's almost as if he was blamed for being the single twin.
I don't think so. I think Gladys was very quiet about it. She didn't even go visit Jesse's grave. Often she would say a prayer, he's an angel, but she kept it quiet. And in those days, people just assumed, he didn't even know Jesse, he'll be fine. But that's not true. I mean, on a physical soul level, he was in pain, but there was no therapy to help him out. So, that didn't help. I mean, but no, he was never blamed. Again, Gladys made him the king, the proxy husband, sidelined Vernon and made him everything. And that was a very destructive thing you can do to a child. Yeah. And then later on, I always wonder if this is what was the nail in Elvis's coffin in the mid-70s. Elvis is in the hospital because of exhaustion and pills, whatever, he's recovering. Vernon has a heart attack, and they're both in the same room, some luxury hospital. And they start talking, but unfortunately they start arguing, and Vernon turns around and said, "You killed your mother. If you hadn't become famous, she would be alive." And Elvis started just weeping. A 40-year-old man is weeping. God. I always wondered, I don't think he ever recovered from such a stab.
No. Yeah, that's awful.
It's hard to erase words once they're said.
Yeah.
And especially those, yeah.
What happened with him and Priscilla? What was their story?
Well, it keeps getting weirder, ladies. Because Gladys had such a psychic hold on Elvis, he would always be obsessed with Gladys. And he had an issue where if a woman looked like Gladys or he felt her aura, he would be hopelessly attracted to her. And guess what? He's out there in the Army. He's got girls, and he's still, a multi-millionaire. And so he sees Priscilla, and he goes, and he even says, something about her remind me of my mom, her aura. I feel we have a past life connection. He said it himself. So and Elvis is like, what Elvis wanted, you couldn't change his mind. And he's like, she is the one. And they're like, Elvis, she's 14. She is the one. So that's what happened. And for the record, even Priscilla says it was, 10 years later before they, did things. Until then, it was Priscilla who wanted it more than Elvis. Yeah, it was Priscilla who made the first moves. Let's put it that way. But that's what happened. For example, when he was studying with Larry Geller, he saw a picture of H.P. Blavatsky, the founder of Theosophy, and he's like, reminds me of my mom. And he suddenly started reading all of their books. When he went to Yogananda's ashram, he meets a successor, Dayamata, and he's like, reminds me of my mom. And he's going every day to study and doing exactly what she wants. So yes, he had some mommy issues that went with Priscilla and everything. But of course, unfortunately, he didn't know how to love. And he admitted it years later with Ginger Alden and all that. He looked at a friend and he quoted this passage from Khalil Gibran's The Prophet. He told his friend, love will crucify you, but love will crown you. And he told his friend, I have never known how to love a woman. And he just realized it at 42. He realized he was never taught how to love a woman. He just couldn't.
Sad. So sad.
So for him, was it control or be controlled? Was that it?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, definitely. So he was mostly in control because he was Elvis. Yeah. He was the king. He did what he wanted. So.
And what finally ended their marriage?
I think they were just drawing apart, you know. I mean, obviously Elvis was not monogamous. He never was. Again, he just couldn't connect with women. He just, not in a bad, I mean, he knew women and he was very good at platonic relationships with women and all that, but for an intimate, deep relationship, he couldn't do it. He just couldn't do it. There was a certain level where it wasn't going to happen. So he was, doing his thing and working a lot. And eventually she had needs. Now the other theory too, mommy issues, is there is an argument that Elvis could not have sex with a woman who had conceived. He couldn't sleep with mothers. And there is evidence because, again, of Gladys. So once Lisa Marie came into the scene, Elvis suddenly pulled back. You just couldn't be intimate with her. And, of course, she's like, well, screw this. So they started drifting apart. She started having affairs and dating, and eventually they just separated. There are stories that counter this. There's different stories, but the problem is always this. He said, she said kind of thing. Yeah. It's hard to.
And how was he with his daughter? What was that like for him?
Great father, loved her to death. I mean, he was everything. I mean, two things that I said was important to Elvis was his spirituality and his entertainment, taking care of his audience. Lisa Marie was easily the top. But again, when he divorced Priscilla in 1973, she got custody. That was huge. That was another, you might say, nail in his coffin because he couldn't see his daughter full time. And he was working to get her back full time before he died, because even in Lisa Marie's own words, Priscilla was, she was the opposite of Gladys. She was a very distant mother. So.
Wow. So much to take in here about him. Yeah. My goodness. I mean, between the astral projection and the healing hands and being the king, oh my gosh. And then still very human struggles with himself and his life. So it's such a wide universe that he occupied and lived in. It's just, how old was he when he died? He was 40 something?
42.
42.
Yeah. A holy number in Egyptian magic.
Oh, of course. But why not? And did he have a premonition of his death?
He did. He had several premonitions. Yeah, he would talk to like girlfriends when he was young, like, oh, I'm not going to make, but you can write that off as rock star histrionics. Hope I die before I get old. I'm never going to, but close to his death, he was dropping some strange hints. He redid his will. He was signing documents for economic things that he never cared about. He would tell, like he told Larry Geller one time, I need to finish this because things are going to change. And he said, angels don't angels can fly because they don't take themselves so lightly. And so Larry was very worried. Others were worried too. He would drive from Memphis at night with a friend to Tupelo, Mississippi to look for his marbles under his house, which was his friend was like, why? And he's like, I need these marbles and I have to visit where my mother gave me birth and other things. But the most obvious one was 2 days before August 16, 1977. Elvis was there in his room reading all these occult books. He was a voracious reader. He could consume books. A really scholarly, brilliant mind he was born with. And he called his stepbrother, David Stanley, to talk to him. And David had some marriage advices that he needed. Elvis was very approachable, very wise. He could give you great advice. And Elvis is out there drugged out, can barely see. And he tells David, in 2 days, I'm going to be on a higher plane. And his stepbrother goes, oh, yeah, in 2 days, we got to take a plane to Portland. That's the plane. And Elvis sort of rolls his eyes, gives him a hug, says, I love you. And then 2 days later, indeed, Elvis was on a higher plane.
He knew. Isn't that fascinating? Oh, my gosh. And the world mourned when he died. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I wonder what it was like for him to pass over and then look back on the incredible life he lived. There's nobody else like him.
No. The fact that they still do the Elvis in the chapel in Vegas after all these years, nothing is. He's never gone. He's always there.
He's here. He's always here. He is part of America's psyche. He's the soul of post-war America. He is the egregore. He is. He is. I don't even know what to call it. A demigod, a living myth. Did you know that the second most visited house in America after the White House is Graceland? 600,000 people visit it every year. He's more popular than ever.
Yeah.
It's just incredible.
Incredible. It really is.
Yeah. It's just, it's like an angel and well, he said, I'm both heaven and hell. Didn't he say something like that? I'm both.
Yes, because I contend that rock music was a form of spirituality, a sound modality, a high vibration. And rock music is fusion. This is something music critics have said, not me, of the blues, which is based on African animism and the trickster god, except the trickster is replaced by the devil. So it is very hellish and naughty and all that. Plus gospel music. As I said, gospel music was huge. In fact, when rock started, music critics would go to shows like Johnny Cash and Elvis and be like, this is a holy tent revival. This is not a new form of music, because it was the same, rock and rolling and shaking and all that. And rock fused these two things, this heaven and hell, this devil and angel thing. And Elvis, he always said, yes, I carry heaven and hell with me and have to be careful. And as we're talking, he was a man of polarities, of extremes. I mean, and everything he did, it's almost, I call him the Lord of the Crossroads, because he seems to be always in the middle of great changes.
That's so apropos. I was trying to remember the gal that was with him when he passed, the gal he was living with at that point in time.
Yeah, Ginger Alden.
Yeah. Whatever happened to her after he passed?
She's still around. Yeah, she is still around.
You don't hear anything of her, whatever.
Yeah, I follow her on Facebook. I get updates. Again, I don't. I just learned about Elvis maybe 2 years ago, so I'm not a fan. I feel like I'm his friend, and I was called to help him out. But Ginger Alden, she did release her biography of her. And she spilled the beans on a lot of his supernatural things, how he could manipulate clouds, he could create force fields, heal nausea and other things, how he had, they worked together on all these Egyptian mystic rituals. Like Elvis had this thing where he said, make up a pyramid over your eye, over your third eye, and then do these mantras and you expand your mind and see reality. So Ginger gives a lot away, and she doesn't judge. She's like, I know Elvis was doing supernatural things. I just went with the flow, because as borrowing from that song by Heart, he's the magic man. That's what I always say about Elvis.
Oh, God. Whew, that's great. Oh, my goodness. Can we please, Bill, put the book up on the screen so everybody can see this book again? Because they're going to need to buy the book and read all the other details about Elvis in this. Where's that book, Bill? The Occult Elvis. What are you doing, Bill?
There. It's back there, if nobody can see.
Bill, wake up. Wake up, Bill.
I have it here. Yes, I have it here. Don't worry. As a podcaster, I know
You're
when
always
things
prepared.
happen.
That's right. It's amazing. I mean, I have to tell you, my mind is blown listening to this amazing account of how he lived his life. And you've done a magnificent job.
Yes, you have.
Really magnificent with this book. And you deserve a lot of kudos for writing it the way you did. And clearly you were called to write this, because you said you didn't really want to write it, but you couldn't get away from it either. Like Elvis couldn't get away from who he was. You couldn't get away from writing this book.
He's very demanding.
I think the thing that's so amazing is I've seen Elvis, the issues about him over the years and whenever, but I never really thought about Elvis. My age, I was past that, the groupie thing. But I'm so fascinated by the man that he became or was that I had no concept of until I read your book.
And there's more. I had to leave things out. And I'm still
really?
Finding more and more things.
Oh, so can you tell us any of those things?
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
In the book.
Or you can go my site, Miguel Conner. There's a link to my blog. So I'm going to start putting more things that got left out.
For instance.
Sharing. For instance, there's always, what else? Some things to speculate is he might not have died on the toilet, as the story goes, because Elvis had a bathroom, it had a toilet, but it also had a barber chair. And it's very well known that when Elvis wanted to read, he didn't sit on the toilet, he sat on his barber chair. So that's where he might have passed. And there are some stories that say, no, his pants were not down. That's just somebody got confused. So that's one thing to look into. The other thing, there's a beautiful, touching story about when they lived in Memphis in the projects. There was a rabbi that lived upstairs, and the rabbi would show up, and Elvis is 13 and go up to him and goes, "Hello, sir. What do you think of Jesus?" And the rabbi would laugh and said, "Oh, we think he's a wise man." "Well, what do you Jews believe?" And he and Elvis became like friends. This 13-year-old boy and this, aged rabbi became good friends and eventually started having dinner together and other things. Years later, the rabbi moved to Oakland and is reading the newspaper, and there's this famous star, and he's like, "Is this my Elvis? Is it that little boy Elvis?" And he called, and Elvis is like, "Come here." And they had this wonderful dinner and press conference together. So there's other things that are, and even some supernatural things I'm finding, that he was able to, he had psychic powers, but Gladys kept, Gladys would wash his mouth with soap if he said he had powers because she was so afraid they'd be persecuted, and other stories that are coming out.
Oh my goodness. It's just when I first heard the title of this book, Miguel, I have to say, I said to PK, "Is this real? Did this really happen?" and now I realize, oh my God, yes, it did. And we all need to know about this. This is really important.
Well, because of some of the things that have been written over the years, you thought of him as being a glorified exclamation points, etc. And to find out the other side of him is amazing, because I thought of nothing but drug, sex, and alcohol until what you wrote, to be honest about it.
But here's this great spiritual being that he was, and learning about Egyptian initiation ceremonies and things like that. I mean, he was way ahead of his time. I mean, look at us now. That to us is, culture is accepted. But back then, nobody talked about that stuff.
Oh, heavens, no.
He was
Talk about
ahead of the
being an
time. Even
outcast.
yeah. Even ufology. He had a very sophisticated view of UFOs. He read like von Daniken's Chariot of the Gods. He would read things like the Book of Enoch or the Old Testament with Ezekiel and the wheels and say, these got to be aliens. These got to be machines. But he was sophisticated. He speculated. He didn't buy or accept any theory. He just liked to speculate. But he believed there were aliens. They communicated telepathically. They were stopping humanity from destroying itself. And he certainly was very much into ufology, way ahead, very sophisticated, something people in the early 60s wouldn't have even thought about. I mean, it was so fringe, and we thought it was sort of like, I don't know, nuts and bolts UFOs if there were aliens, little green men. So he was sophisticated, and as I write in the book, he did have three UFO encounters that we can attest, where, again, he was not alone. He was accompanied by other people.
Did he have any direct contact, like close encounters of the fourth kind, or was it seeing the ships?
No, just the ships. I think so. There was, one time in the Bel Air mansion, it was a light that flooded the area. One time while driving from Memphis to LA, because remember Elvis, there was a time he didn't like to fly, so they'd get in these motorhomes, and they saw, the lights moving through the sky in ways that couldn't be experimental craft that were defying speed and sound, and then sort of a traditional UFO at Graceland. And his father was there, and that's interesting because they're different stories, but when they saw the UFO, the flying saucer over Graceland, suddenly his father, that's when Vernon went like the blue light story appeared, and it said like it'd been memory wiped, and his father's like, Elvis, this reminds me of the day you were born in the blue light. And Elvis was like, there was something going on there. And there was a time, as I say, I write in the book, Elvis did think he might be an extraterrestrial, some starseed, but he speculated. On other times he thought, maybe I'm the reincarnation of Jesus. And we all speculate on these things at one point or another to try to explain why are we so mystical or crazy or out of place.
Why are we so weird? It reminds me of when I interviewed Uri Geller, the spoonbender from, right. I hate to call him that because he's so much more than that in Israel. But he had an experience quite similar, but he was a child and he was walking from the park to his apartment and where he lived with his mother, and there was a light, I believe it was a blue light that followed him, and that's, he felt, was the beginning of all of his powers and abilities. And many years later, he met a military officer who said, I was there in the park.
I remember that.
Remember that? When I saw you walk to your apartment and that light followed you all the way there.
Wow.
So there is something about that light and the connection to our spiritual powers and UFOs and all of that.
Yeah, but Whitley Strieber talks about the visitors often. It was a blue light when he'd walk outside his house. And I have a chapter, for some reason, these extraterrestrials like the blue light.
Yeah.
It's a very famous light,
Yeah, it seems to be what's always referred to when they're talking about the light. It's always a blue light. It's not a white or pink or anything. It's always a blue light. And I think the most important thing right now was, before reading and listening to you, I was thinking of Elvis as being nothing more than drugs, sex, and rock and roll, period. So I was quite amazed to find who the man really was.
This is incredible.
I think that's wonderful to know.
This is an incredible story. I'm just so glad you're able to come on the show with us, Miguel.
Definitely.
And everybody needs to go and buy this book, because there's many more stories in this book that we won't be able to get to tonight, but that's the reason to buy the book and read it. It's so compelling. I mean, I have no words when I think of the magnitude of this story. It's just incredible. Just incredible. And it's like there was nothing left out in terms of what paranormal topics he touched on or he experienced. It was everything.
It was. Sometimes I think, let's say somebody debunks 50% of it, he still stands taller than any mystic in history. And again, it's reliable sources, and some of the sources were people that did not like Elvis. They betrayed him. They were atheists, and they still wrote about these UFO encounters and healing and other things. So I tried to really give him justice, and I think it's all sound.
Yes.
You did a good job.
Yes.
It was very interesting. Like I said, it totally changed my idea of what I thought.
Now,
it's good to know.
Yeah,
did Jackie Gleason know Elvis?
I don't think he liked him from what I've read. Some of the old guard didn't like him. Frank Sinatra didn't like him, said he was a flash in the pan. Milton Berle, a lot, because he changed everything. Remember, he's the Lord of the Crossroads. Suddenly the chiseled Gary Cooper type was out. Suddenly you had this androgynous, vulnerable, I'm going to show you my wounds kind of singer, and it's never changed. No. And they didn't like the sexuality of rock and roll. They certainly didn't like how women were just turning into maenads or followers of Dionysus, how they lost their mind. The old guard was not happy. Yeah, they was not happy with Elvis and the other rock and roll.
I was wondering because Jackie Gleason had an obsession with UFOs.
Oh, yes.
He did. You're right.
Yeah. I mean, he even built a house that looked like a UFO.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. So I was wondering if they had ever connected on that topic, but apparently not. So.
No, Elvis kept it to himself, or just with his inner circle. He was never public about it. Although, it seems so logical when you see when he reinvented himself once again as Vegas Elvis, and you look at his suits with the Mayan calendar and the Egyptian and the peacock, and he was acting like a mystic, like an occultist, like a shaman. He was like, I'm not going to tell the world what I believe in. I'm going to show them by how I dress and act on stage, doing karate kicks. And there are instances where he would stop and do like a Tibetan prayer in between songs and all that. So it's almost like he was showing the word I am occult, but in a way most people would miss it, the cape and all that. So.
Yes, exactly. I wouldn't have known. Oh, my goodness.
Absolutely amazing.
Yes.
You did a great job, Miguel.
No,
yes.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Yeah, and the Ankh. He wore the Ankh till the day he died. It was very important. Yeah.
So maybe an Egyptian god came to Earth.
Yes.
That is what it feels.
Look, I mean, Memphis is based on a Egyptian city. I mean, I give more. There's so much that points Elvis as some sort of, Egyptian mystic being. And again, 42 is a holy number in the Egyptian pantheon and the Egyptian tradition. So
just incredible.
It's all there.
And he knew his death was coming, and he knew when. Oh, my goodness. Well, he lived a larger than life, that's for sure.
Most definitely.
Oh,
and
now
he's still with us. He's still with us.
Yes.
He appears a lot. You can go to Graceland right now. They have a website, a page where you can write your Elvis visitation. Or dream, because he's still busy. He hasn't left us.
He hasn't. Gosh. Well, this has been just remarkable. I mean, I'm so glad you were able to join us tonight.
Yes, for sure.
Just fantastic. Again, the Occult Elvis, everybody. Make sure you get this book. This is just incredible.
Definitely.
We've got to follow your blog because you're putting new information up on your blog, and that's on your website, which is miguelconner.com.
Correct.
Thank you, Bill.
Fabulous.
Oh, this is so much fun. I hate to end the show. I want to keep talking and finding out more and more. This is just terrific. Gosh.
That it is. That it is.
A book 2?
I'm sorry?
Are you going to do a book 2 of this?
Well, I kind of got called to write another book. As soon as I was finished with the Elvis, I was like, all right, Elvis, you're a demanding boss. I hope I have served you. But then another voice says, oh, we got Elvis 2.0 on the wings. And I was like, there cannot be an Elvis 2.0. And this voice said, yes, his name is David Bowie. And I started going down that rabbit hole, and I'm like, oh my God, they were born on the same date. They had UFO experiences, abusive mothers, issues with their siblings they lost. And I started realizing, oh my God, it's the same figure. And they knew each other too.
Oh, they did?
Mm-hmm.
Well, unfortunately, we have to wrap up. But, oh gosh, Miguel, thank you again. This has been fabulous. Really appreciate it. Good luck. And I think this needs to be made into a movie. I hope the Hollywood producers are listening, because this should be a movie. So interesting.
Well, thank you. I really enjoyed it. Thanks for having me on. And hail to the king.
Hail to the king. Well, thank you, Miguel.
Hail to the king, baby. As you would say.
That's right. We will be back next week, everybody, with another great show. Until then, we will see you on the Blue Highway. Good night.
Good night.